fight Sakio Bika, but for all four of tonight's fighters in action, the stakes are high. Ward has already assured a place in the Super 6 semifinals, but his WBA super middleweight title and unbeaten record are on the line against Bika. And in Finland, Abraham and Froch will fight for the WBC super middleweight championship, as well as all-important position in the Super 6. And here are current Super 6 standings as we begin tonight. Andre Ward with 6 points is atop the mountain at this point, and his group stage fights are complete. Glenn Johnson has earned a spot in the semifinals by virtue of his knockout win over Alan Green earlier this month. The two fighters who control their own destiny are Arthur Abraham and Carl Froch, who will determine their place in the semifinal lineup based upon the outcome of their head-to-head showdown tonight. A key fact to note is that a fighter gets 3 points for a knockout, and that could be a decisive factor in the final seedings. Hi everybody, Gus Johnson here in Oakland, California as we complete Group Stage 3 of the Super 6 World Boxing Classic. One thing is certain, it has been a wild, unpredictable, and utterly fascinating tournament. While it's already been established that Ward, Abraham, Froch, and Glenn Johnson will advance to the semifinals, the matchups will be determined by the seedings, and those seedings will be greatly impacted by the Abraham-Froch fight, which we're about to see. And while we have seen some extraordinary fights thus far in the group stage, Abraham-Froch could be the most intriguing and exciting match to date. Let me welcome my partners, the veteran Al Bernstein and four-time world champion Antonio Tarver. And Al, we'll start with you. We are seeing the evolution of Mr. Andre Ward.
We really are, right before our eyes during the course of this tournament, because you have to remember that at the beginning of this tournament, he was a 5-2 underdog, as was Andre Durrell, to win this tournament, and along with Durrell was the least experienced in big fights of anyone who was in this tournament. And we've seen Andre Ward become the front runner in this tournament, and in fact now sitting atop the leaderboard. A lot of boxing insiders thought it was possible, but how exactly did it happen, Antonio?
You know what, I think sheer talent. There's three facets of boxing. Boxing, counterpunching, and punching. And he's mastered those three styles. And he's been very hard for these fighters to slow down with this aggressiveness, which, you know, took a lot of us by surprise. We thought he'd be a little cutie, dance around, but he's been aggressive. He's going to the body. His defense have also been credible. But tonight he's faced a guy that's unpredictable in a lot of ways with Bika, so his unpredictability may play right into Bika's hand if he's not careful.
All right, so Andre Ward with a very stiff task at hand, taking on a very explosive and, as you mentioned, unpredictable Sakio Bika. So coming up from Oakland, California, Andre Ward looks to keep his unblemished record as he defends his WBA title for the second time, while Sakio Bika has an opportunity to dethrone the champ and establish himself as a major player in the 168-pound division. Now for tonight's text message poll question: what has been the biggest surprise of the Super 6 World Boxing Classic? If you think it was Andre Ward defeating Mikkel Kessler, text 1. Andre Durrell defeating Arthur Abraham, text 2. Or Glenn Johnson defeating Alan Green, text 3. We invite you to send your response to us here at SHOWZ. That shows 74699. Standard text messaging rates apply. And our first order of business tonight is the final fight of Group Stage 3 in the Super 6 World Boxing Classic. Arthur Abraham and Carl Froch have a lot in common. They're both former champions from Europe. They're both coming off their first career loss. They're both 1-1 in the Super 6, and they're both legitimate, and I mean legitimate, tough guys and powerful punchers. Let's head to Helsinki, Finland, where Abraham and Froch will battle with the vacant WBC super middleweight title on the line. My colleagues Steve Albert and Steve Farhood, who reportedly feasted on reindeer and stuffing on Thanksgiving night, will call the fight. Gentlemen.
Welcome to frigid and snowy Helsinki, Finland. This is only the second neutral site thus far in the tournament where home ring advantage has proven insurmountable. Tonight, the only two fighters who will have fought in all three group stages collide in what is arguably the most anticipated matchup in the tournament to date. King Arthur Abraham versus Carl Froch, perhaps the two toughest and most explosive fighters in the tournament, and two men who have made it clear they don't like one another. Hello everybody, Steve Albert from Helsinki, Finland. We hope you're enjoying Thanksgiving weekend wherever you are. Here in Finland, we are closing in on the final fight in Group Stage 3 of the Super 6 World Boxing Classic. Arthur Abraham and Carl Froch are already assured semifinal berths in this tournament, but both men suffered their first career loss in Group Stage 2, which makes tonight all the more critical. Tonight's fight will decide Super 6 seeding, and also at stake the chance to capture the WBC Super Middleweight Championship. Both fighters appear focused and ready. And despite the personal animosity displayed during the build-up to this fight, they found time for some diversions here in Helsinki. Bundled up in hats, gloves, and plenty of layers, Arthur Abraham and Carl Froch have embraced the snow-laden Helsinki as their home during fight week.
Moi, on kiva olla, kaunista, Suomessa. It's great to be here in Finland.
Finland is very clean city, very nice city, maybe a little bit cold.
We're in Helsinki, which isn't Germany and it isn't England, so there'll be no excuses for anybody.
Finland's capital, with over 500,000 residents, was host to a busy week of activities for the two fighters.
Public workout on Tuesday, then I thought, right, Wednesday press conference, then the weigh-in Friday, and then that's it. Saturday, fight time.
I heard that you're going to go ice hockey match tonight.
Thank you.
After hockey games, media gatherings, and sightseeing,
I eat every day salmon.
Froch and Abraham are ready to heat things up in this icy city.
He's never been in with a super middleweight who hits him harder than me.
Only win for me, no more.
This is Arctic warfare.
The non-boxing activity aside, let's hope the fight is as combative as the lead-up. Yes, the elements of a classic all-out brawl. With that, let me bring on my ringside partner, Steve Farhood. And Steve, your view on how Abraham and Froch have stayed focused on tonight and the tournament.
Steve, we spoke to both of them yesterday. As usual with these two, focus not a problem at all, nor is motivation, which creates the intense focus in the first place. Remember, they're both coming off their first loss, and there is a vacant world title at stake. As for the tournament, Abraham and Froch aren't thinking about seeding or the semifinals or the tiebreakers or the big picture. For them, it's all about the here and the now, as it should be. Arthur Abraham opened the Super 6 with a thud, knocking out Jermaine Taylor. In his second bout, he was outboxed by Andre Durrell, and after Durrell slipped to the canvas, Abraham flattened his opponent with a right hand and was disqualified. It was the Armenian's first professional loss. In Carl Froch's initial tournament bout, he won a close decision over Durrell. In his next Super 6 bout, he lost a close decision and the WBC belt to Mikkel Kessler in Denmark. Tonight, he attempts to regain that belt by defeating Abraham.
And tonight here in Helsinki, this test of survival continues as we go to the tail of the tape. Froch is 3 years older than Abraham, but Froch, the natural super middleweight, so at 6'1", he's 4 inches taller and has a 3-inch reach advantage. However, Abraham came in heavier than Froch at yesterday's weigh-in. Abraham said he'd be about 175 in the ring, Froch 171. And Steve, the key rules for tonight's WBC world title fight.
No standing 8 count, Steve, no 3 knockdown rule. A fighter cannot be saved by the bell in any round. Only the referee can stop the fight. And the accidental headbutt rule, if the fight is stopped after the bell starting round 5, we go to the cards. Before the bell for round 5, it's a technical draw.
So we are set for the ring wars. Let's go up to our ring announcer, Jimmy Lennon Jr.
Ladies and gentlemen, the time has come for stage 3 of the Super 6 World Boxing Classic. Please welcome the boxers as they make their way to the ring. First, here is the former world champion, currently ranked the #2 world contender from Berlin, Germany, introducing King Arthur Abraham.
So here is the slight favorite, Berlin-based King Arthur Abraham, former longtime middleweight champ, who expects about 1,000 supporters here from Germany, Armenia, Russia, and LA. Huge fan base around the world. All the hype and trash talk aside, this is the most important fight in Abraham's career. And Steve, whether he admits it or not, he was outclassed and physically pushed around in his last Super 6 fight. He needs to make a statement tonight.
Steve, no question. You know, it's very unusual for two fighters coming off losses to be matched for a title. Hasn't happened since 1935, from what I can tell. But Abraham still considers himself unbeaten because he feels he would have KO'd Durrell. And Froch thinks he deserved the decision over Kessler. So at least in their minds, this is a matchup of undefeated fighters.
He took a verbal beating from Froch, handled it well because he knows it's meaningless once the fight begins. But he's the type of guy, if he's on his A game, he could make it a very, very rough night for Carl Froch. He's waited 8 months for the chance to redeem himself. A back injury to Froch didn't help matters. So Arthur Abraham, in all white, is in the ring and ready to go against Carl Froch here in Helsinki, Finland. Froch always looking calm and cool and composed.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, here is the former world champion, bringing back the #1 world contender from Nottingham, England, introducing Carl the Cobra Froch.
He is the pride of Nottingham, Carl Froch. Usually greeted by raucous fans, with most of his fans in the UK as fights, but tonight he enters a neutral environment. Claimed he'd have about 500 Brits on hand. Froch, a likable guy with a brash, outspoken public persona, confessed to us that he taunted and insulted Abraham to get into his head and make him go for the knockout. Perhaps a bit risky to antagonize a vicious puncher, but Steve, this is supremely confident, highly motivated fighter, fueled by his recent ring history.
Steve, over the past 2 years, Froch's opponents, Jean Pascal, Jermaine Taylor, Andre Durrell, and Mikkel Kessler. And tonight, Arthur Abraham. There's not another active fighter you can name who's faced that caliber of opposition in such a period of time. And if Froch is to win the Super 6, 2 more top-level opponents ahead of him.
Calls this his defining fight. And the man who beat the only man to beat Arthur Abraham back up all his pre-fight bravado and reclaim the title he thought he was robbed of. 2 extremely proud fighters who don't want to be saddled with consecutive losses. Though in their minds, they're still undefeated. That's a fighter's mentality. Carl Froch getting last-second instructions from trainer Robert McCracken. Truly believes Abraham will have problems with his power at this weight, that Abraham's power is overrated. He's one-dimensional, even mocking Abraham's high guard. The makings of a memorable night in Helsinki. So here at Hartwell Arena, Abraham Froch, Group Stage 3 of the Super 6 World Boxing Classic. We're standing by for the official introductions here at Hartwell in Helsinki.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome. Hyvät naiset ja herrat, tervetuloa. We welcome you, ladies and gentlemen, to Hartwell Arena here in Helsinki, Finland, for the featured bout of the evening, brought to you by Sauerland Event in association with Hennessy Sports and Showtime. This bout is sanctioned by the World Boxing Council, the president Jose Sulaiman, and the supervisor Bob Logist. Introducing to you our 3 judges scoring this bout from ringside. From Reno, Nevada in the United States, Bert Clements. From Villa Park, California in the United States, Max DeLuca. And from Dallas, Texas in the United States, Oren Schellenberger. And our 3rd man to the ring, the referee in charge. He'll be giving instructions after the introductions from Lincoln Park, Michigan, Frank Garza. All right, fans, here we go with the main event of the evening. It's the Super 6 World Boxing Classic, and it's scheduled 12 rounds of boxing for the vacant WBC Super Middleweight Championship of the World. And now, ladies and gentlemen in attendance and boxing fans joining us around the world, live from Helsinki, Finland, it's showtime! Introducing to you first, on my left, fighting out of the red corner, wearing black trunks, he is known as boxing's pride of Nottingham, England. He weighed in at 75.8 kilos or 166 3/4 pounds. With a record of 26 wins and 1 loss, he has 20 wins coming by way of knockout. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the confirmed Super 6 semifinalist, currently ranked the WBC #1 contender. Here is the former WBC Super Middleweight Champion of the World, introducing Carl the Cobra Froch. And his opponent across the ring on my right, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing white trunks with black lettering and fighting out of Berlin, Germany. He weighed in at an even 76 kilos or 167 1/4 pounds. His record stands at 31 wins, 1 loss, with 25 big wins coming by way of knockout. He also is a confirmed Super 6 semifinalist, ranked the WBC #2 contender. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former middleweight champion of the world, introducing King Arthur Abraham. Once again, a referee in charge now to give instructions, Frank Garza.
Okay, gentlemen, we went over all the rules. Both of you, I couldn't ask for a better place to have your belt lines. Keep them up above the trunks. Touch hands, come out at the bell. May the best man win.
Jimmy Lennon Jr., classy on any continent. The Super 6 from Finland with a world title on the line. Immediately noticeable, the size difference. Abraham, the smaller man, will have to get inside, close the gap, but he doesn't like infighting. Froch's long jab and double jab could be critical tonight. Abraham in the white, Froch in the black. Round 1 scheduled for 12. Will we see more boxing and movement than usual from Carl Froch? He knows he's not Andre Durrell, but he said he'll surprise Abraham with his speed. Abraham, a notoriously slow starter, wants to apply pressure early. A major adjustment for a guy who's used to coming out just like that with the tight defensive shell.
Yeah, Steve, something to look for right away. Will Abraham be more aggressive than usual? Will Froch be able to score with the jab? That's a key, and it's not that easy to do because of the way Abraham holds his hands.
Very enthusiastic, spirited crowd. Seems to be siding a little more with Abraham. 2 physically strong, rough, tough, durable guys with great chins. Both can change a fight with 1 punch. Both dangerous to the end. Oh, there's Abraham looking to end it on 1 punch. No strangers to late drama and heroics, these two. Will this come down to who lands the biggest right hands? Who will get there first?
Well, Abraham lunged. When he missed there, Froch took advantage and really scored the only significant punches thus far.
And he is an excellent counter puncher. In Abraham's last fight, Durrell gave him all kinds of problems with speed and movement. He won't have to look very far to find Froch, Steve.
Exactly. Looks like the old Abraham to me, Steve. Really not that much sense of urgency as he comes forward.
Absolutely. Be mindful, Froch with the habit of holding the left hand low or squaring up. Invitation for disaster. Abraham's monster right has produced punishing results. The left hook a factor 2, sometimes wide, but it's launched many a resounding knockout. You never know when he's going to throw that looping shot. Abraham won't throw as many punches as his opponent. Moving forward. Not the prettiest style, but effective in his awkwardness. Froch in the black, very unorthodox, attacks from weird angles, fights basically off the back foot. The big right, his money punch, and a formidable right uppercut. Didn't see that much of it in the Kessler fight. Right. Could see it more here.
He threw one before, and he throws it from far away. It's a recipe for disaster because you're in no position to defend yourself when you miss with an uppercut from long range.
Approaching 20 seconds remaining in round 1. Final fight of Group Stage 3 of the Super 6. We're in Helsinki, Finland tonight. And a flurry by Froch near the bell to end round 1. Hey, Steve, give us your keys to victory for Froch Abraham.
Well, for Arthur Abraham, Steve, start faster. Abraham can't give away the early rounds this time. He says he won't. Get close. If he can make it an infight, Abraham will negate Froch's reach advantage and throw straight punches. Froch sometimes loops his shots. If Abraham shoots straight, his right can be a dominant weapon. And for Carl Froch, jab all night. Abraham doesn't counter the jab that well. Froch needs to score with his left again and again. Focus on the body. Andre Durrell punched around Abraham's elbows. Froch can do the same. And stand his ground. If Froch retreats when Abraham attacks, he'll lose control of the fight.
Second round 2.
Round 2 scheduled for 12. Super 6, Helsinki, Finland. Steve Albert with Steve Farhood ringside. Arthur Abraham, the former longtime middleweight champ in the white trunks. Carl Froch, the former WBC super middleweight champ, trying to regain his title in the black. Let's see if Froch entertains the notion of going to the body. Abraham hates body shots and often complains on borderline shots. Froch emphasized, as you touched on, he really wants to blast away at Abraham's sides. Opponents often stray low on Abraham because of that turtle-like shell. There's just nowhere else to punch.
Yeah, Durrell was very successful at punching through the high guard of Abraham and around it. And there's a right hand, but not really thrown with a lot of oomph from Froch. Froch he's pawing with the jab more than he's throwing it.
Abraham known for his huge power, but as you can see, as he pounds away to the side there of Froch, he looks to stay outside for the most part, burst in, and get out fast. But when he comes forward, he's really dangerous.
And Steve, the ever-lovely Rachel Cordingley, Froch's girlfriend's right behind us. She's yelling so loudly and so much, I think she's part of the broadcast. We have a three-man team.
Get her a contract. She got into the trash talk act too there, and you'll hear her react to almost everything her boyfriend Carl Froch does. She made some disparaging remarks about Arthur Abraham. And here's Arthur Abraham showing some force. Nice left hook upstairs by Abraham. Abraham coming on. He usually waits till around 3 or 4. But he's showing more offense here in round 2.
Well, Abraham stepping it up a little bit with his forward progress. As a result, Froch forced to throw more punches. Steve Froch landed an interesting combination before. He threw that right uppercut, and he followed with a right around the guard of Abraham, who lowered his guard to block the uppercut. Something to look for.
There's that wide left hook offered up by Arthur Abraham, missing. Back comes Froch with a straight right, pushing Abraham back, and then he goes to the sides as he announced he would. Again to the side.
And that's a good example of the fact that Arthur Abraham does not counter well. Froch dropped his hands, threw a few shots, no counter.
And just like in the Durrell fight, Abraham being pushed back rather easily. Froch has to remember to keep his hands up at all times when he comes forward and when he goes back.
Action from round two. Abraham again lunging in a little bit, didn't really score. Watch the uppercut followed by a nice right hand around to the side. That's the combination I was talking about. Maybe he should use it more often. And right now, Froch doing a good job using his feet, stepping back, which just increases that reach advantage that he has. It makes it a little tougher for Abraham to reach him.
Ready for round three. Uli Wegner, the famed German coach, with last-second instructions for Abraham. Yeah, Froch's one of those guys whom opponents might underestimate when watching tapes of him, and then when they actually step in the ring with him, it's a different story. He has a lot of subtle intangibles, not that easy to solve, more elusive than you'd think in an awkward way, and he does have hand speed, and his punches can be sharp and accurate.
Go, just box him and then bring him on to shots. Don't go to him.
And the third member of our broadcast team, Rachel Portingley, is well heard behind us. The girlfriend of Carl Froch. They just had a baby boy, Rocco.
You could see that Froch is maintaining the distance he wants between them for a very simple reason. He doesn't have to do much work. Abraham is inching forward very slowly.
Froch has to be careful not to go straight back, though, Steve. He's got to go side to side. He could get nailed by one of those straight rights by Abraham.
And one thing about jabbing against the guy who keeps his gloves up, if you jab hard enough, even if you hit the gloves, you're going to have an effect and you're going to mark your man up.
Abraham often swells from his own gloves being pushed back into his face. Keeps that guard up so high. The idea is to lure your opponent in, make you work, wear you down, and get you late in the fight. And also so you don't break down late in the fight. But I thought he'd be more offensive-minded as he comes forward there with a three-punch combination. I guess in the world of Arthur Abraham, this is his version of being more offensive-minded early.
Right, but you know what? He's giving away the rounds. First round was pretty close. Second round was clearly Froch's, in my opinion, and I don't think this third round is going too well for Abraham either.
He's starting to throw more punches, Abraham, here in the latter stages of round three. Oh, nice move defensively by Arthur Abraham to elude that punch. Now here comes Froch with a left right to the body. Then he goes upstairs, but it only hit glove. See, this is a good thing that Froch is doing. He's pushing Abraham back to the ropes. When Abraham is on the ropes, he's less effective. He doesn't throw, and that's when you outwork the guy, just like here. Abraham, just like with Durrell in the early going, inviting his opponent in. We know what happened that night.
And Froch should be smart now. He should back off, let the round finish. He knows he won it.
favour. Go that way. Do you understand me? Away from the right hand like you've trained. Sharp jab and right hand. I don't want you going big. When you're up close, just really short, and then back on the long jabs and right hands. But you've got to be busy, mate. Okay, busier than that. But when he moves away from you...
And we take a look at action from round 3.
Listen to me.
Abraham...
Head movement. Do you understand? I don't want him hitting you in the face with that jab.
Back to the ropes. Froch with an explosion.
Stay with him.
And those punches, even though he missed a lot, he scored a lot as well.
Great strategy by the Englishman, Carl Froch, to push Abraham to the ropes. That is exactly when Abraham stops throwing. And then just blast away. You want to counter Abraham to land flush.
And in terms of punches thrown, Carl Froch, much busier. We know he's been punching in combinations. Abraham hasn't been, for the simple reason that when he does punch, he's lunging. Can't throw a second shot when you miss the first one by a lot.
Round 4 scheduled for 12, Super 6, Group Stage 3, last fight. Both fighters guaranteed spots in the Super 6 semifinals, but they're fighting for seeding in the standings and also for the WBC super middleweight title. Abraham looking to become a 2-division champion, missing with that right hand. Back comes Froch, combination, mostly hit gloves. There's that long jab going by Carl Froch. Got the 3-inch reach advantage.
And Steve, you know, one of the things with Abraham, and this mystifies me about him, if you're Carl Froch and you know you can throw any punch and not worry about getting countered, it gives you a lot of confidence, and Abraham just doesn't counter.
And again, there's that range-fighting jab by Carl Froch. Keeps your opponent at bay, sets up the power. Another good combination by Froch, letting his hands go. The English fans behind us are all riled up.
And just to continue the point, it's very hard to counter effectively when you hold your gloves that high. You're not in a position to punch.
Good round for Carl Froch. Looking to recapture his title. Abraham comes on, but not a lot got accomplished. Missed wildly with a left hook. Froch being elusive. Right hand attempt by Abraham, hit nothing.
Yeah, that was a counter punch, one of the only ones we've seen.
Abraham doing a lot of misfiring. There's the bell. Let's go to Jim Gray for a report in Oakland.
Steve, thank you very much. Here with Sakio Bika as he gets ready as the challenger tonight to Andre Ward in Oakland. You lost a couple of times when you had an opportunity to win a championship, among them to Joe Calzaghe. What are you going to have to do differently in your third attempt tonight against Andre Ward?
You know, I have to, I lose with Joe Calzaghe. It wasn't less on loss. People are supposed to say it was a big loss. Maybe I won the fight. This one, the third shot for me, to fight Andre Ward for your hometown. I've been there before. I'm looking for, just to try to win, because I trained very hard. I prepared this fight very good, and I'm very confident I can win this fight.
Against Andre Ward, you felt as though you should have been in the Super 6 tournament, even though this isn't part of the tournament. Why did you feel that you were left out? Why do you feel you weren't included?
I would think I wasn't included because, I don't know exactly. I would think maybe the tournament for the Super 6 was just maybe a European and American because I was one of the best 168 pounds. I didn't know why they didn't choose me on the start. I was very disappointed, and today I want to just show the world, I support you being part of the tournament, and I will have to take this belt of Andre Ward to try to show I deserve to be part of this tournament.
Sakio, best of luck this evening. We look forward to seeing you. All right, let's go back to Steve Albert in Helsinki.
Bit of a sense of urgency there in that Abraham corner as Abraham towels off and gets ready for the next round, round 5, scheduled for 12. Abraham in the white trunks, 30 years old, 7+ year pro, former IBF middleweight champ, 10 successful defenses. Froch wearing the black, 26-1, 20 knockouts. He's 33, former WBC super middleweight champ. Abraham 31-1 with 25 knockouts, both coming off their first defeat.
And Steve, you mentioned Abraham, former middleweight champ. We should keep in mind, he used this very strategy to win a lot of fights at middleweight. The question at this higher weight and against this level of competition, can he do it? He couldn't against Durrell. So far, he can't against Froch, but we know he has power in the late rounds. That's usually when he tries to take over.
Coming up on 2 minutes left in round 5. Froch has looked the better of the two to this point. Throwing a lot more punches, as you'd expect, against Arthur Abraham, but Abraham missing a lot. And there goes Froch to the side again, which is an effective punch against Arthur Abraham.
Froch very disciplined. When he lands shots, there's a tendency to want to keep throwing because Abraham's not doing anything. But he takes a step backward to the side. Very disciplined by Froch.
Good game plan so far by Carl Froch. He studied the Abraham-Durrell fight very closely and realized that Durrell fought the perfect blueprint for Arthur Abraham, and he's trying to take it from there. That jab by Carl Froch, keeping Abraham at a distance, and then a beautiful combination to the head by Froch. It wasn't the most powerful, but it's going to get him points. And Abraham just looks reckless. He's having a difficult time trying to solve the Brit.
Well, one of the reasons Froch had a lot of trouble with Jermaine Taylor until he knocked him out, and had a lot of trouble with Kessler, he had trouble with their jabs. And there's no jab coming from Arthur Abraham. He started jabbing in the first round, hasn't done it since.
Froch is frustrating Abraham. He's stumbling around, off balance, and Froch pours it on. Abraham continues to miss with the hook. Abraham missing again. Terrific speed defensively here by Froch. Good head movement to stay out of the way, and a nice lunging left at the bell by Froch.
We take a look at action from round 5. Carl Froch, you can see it in the screen. The distance between the two is exactly what he wants. And there, nice combination because he's punching through the guard occasionally, around the guard occasionally. Means Abraham really can't defend against it. And again, Abraham looking a little amateurish there, lunging with the right hand, missing by a good 6 inches.
Switch up, block and parry move, 1-2, 1-2. Let's go, guys. You're breaking his arm.
Round 6. Round 6.
If Froch wins tonight, either by knockout or decision, he'll fall from the number 4 seed in the Super 6 standings to number 2. A KO gives him 5 points, a decision 4, and Abraham would most likely be the number 4 seed, as Johnson would be number 3, Glenn Johnson, with more total scorecard points. Johnson inherited Mikkel Kessler's points. Kessler dropped out with the eye injury.
Froch a little bit more active with the jab, but Froch throwing more.
So when the dust settles after what I just said, it will be Abraham versus Ward in the semis, Froch versus Johnson, but we'll see. Minute gone by, round 6, scheduled for 12. Froch in the black has pretty much controlled the action. Abraham in the white. Again, nice jab by Froch, putting Abraham off balance.
Yeah, and a lot of swelling and redness now around Abraham's eyes.
And again, a lot of that is from his own gloves being shoved back into his face. We see that all the time with Arthur Abraham. He was cut badly over the right eye in the Durrell fight. His cut man, Giulio Spaioli, did a great job. There's a beautiful right hand cross to the head by Froch. And then he goes bombing away to the body.
These are 3 shots.
Abraham really struggling. This round being dominated by Froch.
You know, Steve, Durrell did this to Abraham throughout the fight, but Durrell we at least think of as being faster and more mobile than Froch. And Froch is doing the same thing with a minimal amount of movement, really.
Before the fight, Steve, Froch did say he would surprise Abraham with his speed and range, and he's doing just that. Look how confident Froch looks, but a wild swing and a miss. Can Abraham take advantage? But back comes Froch with a right hand.
Froch looks to his trainer there. I'm not sure why. Never a good idea to take your eyes off your opponent.
Particularly if it's Abraham. Wait a minute. Frank Garza steps in. It's a slip. It's a slip. Froch with a sly smile on his face. Froch coming forward, and the belt. Another good one for Froch.
Also da kann ich dir auch nicht helfen. Der haut viel ans Ding hoch. Und was hast du denn Angst? Das ist ja richtig feige hier.
We take a look at action from round 6. You see that Abraham stuck on the ropes, and actually he was the one, and here is when Garza steps in. A left hand from Froch cuffed Abraham around the neck, clearly not a knockdown. And boy, can Abraham miss that right hand by any more? I mean, he's missing it by a yard now.
Move the head, don't look for big shots. 1-2 up move. Double jab right hand. Come on, mate. 6 rounds. Come on, you've got to stay on it there. He's good.
Round 7. Round 7.
Hey, I thought Carl Froch was the awkward fighter. He's making Abraham look very, very awkward here. Round 7. Steve Barhood, how do you have it at the halfway mark?
60-54 for Carl Froch. The only round, Steve, that I think was debatable was the first, and Froch is controlling this fight.
I think the woman screaming behind you would agree. Rachel Cordingley, the girlfriend of Carl Froch, who has taken up boxing herself.
Carl Froch with a sizable advantage in power shots. That's because Abraham's not landing his at all.
Great work rate by Carl Froch, boxing effectively, making Abraham miss with speed and elusiveness. Does this sound familiar?
Well, you know, we're looking at 2 fighters, Steve, who we know have the power to score very late knockouts. Froch did it to Jermaine Taylor. Abraham did it to Jermaine Taylor.
Here comes Froch. Froch pounding away. And all Abraham does is cover up. Another left hook to the jaw of Arthur Abraham. Abraham continues to struggle. Froch just has him pegged. He is not playing Abraham's game. Under a minute to go in round 7. Another round in the book so far for the Englishman, Carl Froch in black.
Body language, Steve tells me Arthur Abraham looks very discouraged right now. And he should be.
Not quite a sense of resignation, but discouraged is the perfect word. Froch again opens up. Almost everything's landing.
Exactly. Abraham has no answers. Froch has no limitations to what he can do.
A dominating performance by Carl Froch here in the Super 6.
Okay, my break. Step
His other fights have been awfully close, Steve, but so far, not this one. Couple of good shots at the bell by Froch. Let's go back to Oakland, a report from Jim Gray.
All right, Steve, thank you very much. We are here with the champion, Andre Ward. Andre, why did you decide to take this fight at this time?
Well, I needed to. Being that I have a berth in the semifinals, you know, after Darrell pulled out, if we didn't get a fight, we were going to be on the shelf until, you know, sometime next year. It's not good for any fighter. So the key was to keep the date of November 27th. We did that, and Bika's the opponent.
And what about Bika? Is there anything specifically that concerns you?
Every fight concerns me. You know, he's coming and he's trying to take my title, so that's a huge concern. But I've prepared, and I'm ready to do battle tonight.
You paying attention to the tournament and what's going on overseas as we're watching from here? What is your assessment so far of what you see between Froch and Abraham?
Well, it's not really a concern. Obviously, I have my own business I have to handle tonight. I've heard whispers about what happened, and I just leave it at that. I have time to assess the tape and, you know, look at that fight more in depth when I get home, and I'm able to relax. But I'm just 100% focused on what we got to do tonight.
Andre, best of luck. We will talk to you after the fight.
It's always fun, Jim. Thank you.
All right, Steve, back to you in Finland.
Mann, das ist doch eine Schande, was hier ablieferst. Deine ganzen Fans sind hier die Einzigen.
Second down. Round 8.
In der Mitte und du kommst knapp und dann gehst du Kopf nach. Du hast das
Let's go, guys. Round 8.
Du kannst doch nicht gewinnen.
Let's go, Uli. Come on.
Arthur Abraham getting an earful from Uli Wegner. It's getting desperate in that corner. Two world-class punchers fighting for a world title in the Super 6 tournament. As his test of survival continues, who will make it to the finish line, no pun intended, as we're coming to you from Finland, and be able to truly call himself the super middleweight champ of the world. Was the last round a microcosm of the fight?
Yeah, you look at the punches landed, and that's exactly right, Steve. Carl Froch dominating in the ring and on the punch stats as well.
Carl Froch continues to do a tremendous job all around. Boxing beautifully. Being defensively elusive and making Abraham miss. Froch bouncing around up and down on his toes. Abraham flat-footed. Continues to make Abraham go back to the ropes, pounding away, blasting away. And Abraham just stands there and invites him in. Puts his hands down dangerously. Froch missing with the right, missing with another right. But I'm not quite sure I understand Abraham's strategy.
Well, Uli Wegner said to him a couple of rounds ago, between rounds, you're not yourself. And I think he might be being himself, and it's just not enough against Froch.
Oh, look out. He gave him a forearm, a stiff forearm, and now he's resorting to roughhouse tactics. That's frustration, Steve.
Very important at this time for Froch to keep his cool. When everything's going well, don't change anything.
We saw what happened in round 11 in Detroit against Darrell when he was frustrated. He hit him when he was down after he slipped and got disqualified. This is where Froch wants Abraham, right in the middle of the ring.
And Froch seems very content not to go for a knockout. No point going for it. Abraham has a great chin, has a titanium chin, literally, because after the first Miranda fight, that's what they put in his chin to put it back together.
Along with 22 screws surgically implanted in the jaw. That was a different Arthur Abraham, Steve.
Maybe the best punch of the fight there for Abraham, but it was a little bit of a slap. That left hook didn't land solid. Action from round 8. Froch mixing up those punches. Where is Arthur Abraham? On the ropes. Squared up. Gives Froch more target. And Abraham resorting to machismo there, saying, you know, you're not hurting me. Well, anytime a fighter says that, of course, what you're doing is hurting him.
You've got to work him to death early on, so we bust him up with that jab. The jab will kill him if you keep doing it. Yeah, the jab will kill him. Yeah, but listen, the jab.
Abraham's trainer saying to him, you have one chance to win. Use your jab.
Abraham doesn't have bad technical skills. Of course, he's known for his power and his late drama by knocking people out late in fights. But right now, he's just being commanded by Carl Froch.
Yeah, and you know, as this fight gets later and later, we have to remember, too, that should Abraham connect with some big shots, there's no guarantee he's going to hurt Froch. Froch has an excellent chin. This is not Jermaine Taylor, who's been knocked out a few times in there. It's Carl Froch, who's only been down once in his career against the aforementioned Jermaine Taylor.
And that's after he was down early in the fight and came back to knock out Taylor in the 12th, in the final seconds of the 12th. Of course, Abraham knocked out Taylor, too, in the final seconds of round 12 in Germany. Of course, Froch said that his beatdown of Taylor made it easier for Abraham.
Well, what I'm asking right now, Stephen, I know you called the Abraham-Durrell fight, but did Durrell take a little something out of Abraham that's not coming back? Or is Abraham just not meant for this division? You know, when you see him in street clothes, he looks like a junior middleweight, not a super middleweight.
Blood on the forehead of Arthur Abraham. I thought Abraham came into that Durrell fight a little overconfident, a little cocky, coming off the spectacular knockout of Jermaine Taylor. And he thought that he could come up with some late inning drama, as they say. A grand slam in the bottom of the ninth. Never happened.
He may need the same thing tonight.
And he was coming on in that fight, too, against Durrell when he was disqualified. He would have been very capable of pulling off some heroics. But we'll never know. There's that attempt of a jab, but it's sort of like a stiff arm by Abraham.
Just tremendous discipline being shown by Froch. Technically, no, he's not the greatest fighter in the world, but boy, is he fighting a disciplined fight. He's not going for the bait, and he's not saying to himself, oh, this guy's so easy to hit.
Beautiful left-right combination upstairs by Froch. Approaching 30 seconds remaining, round 9, scheduled for 12. WBC Super Middleweight Championship. Beautiful left, right again to the head. Ten seconds to go. Beautiful counter punching by Carl Froch. Oh, just at the bell, a right cross on the jaw by Abraham.
For the first 30 seconds, you could get it going. That's how we let you with the right hand, all right? Do me a favour. I'm all right. Have a good one. You got to be
action from round 9. Arthur Abraham, really, this was the best exchange in the fight so far. Probably an even exchange. Abraham did land some shots, but later in the round, Froch just takes control right again. And he didn't go for the bait. I can't say it enough. He's not trying to do too much against a fighter who's very, very hittable right now.
Alle, die kommen alle wegen dir hierher. Komm her. Komm. Du hast das immer noch drin. Hör zu jetzt mal, Junge. Komm, du musst jetzt mal aber geschlossen bleiben. Komm, ich höre. Also komm.
And it's round 10. Carl Froch has done just about everything but put Abraham on the seat of his pants. Abraham looking extremely disheartened between rounds on his stool. And understandably so. He just hasn't done anything. Again, it's Carl Froch with the offense. Perhaps there is something to be said for what Carl Froch said before the fight, and that Froch just wouldn't be able to handle him at this weight, or Abraham wouldn't be able to handle him at this weight.
And Carl Froch, total punches thrown and landed. Tells the story of this fight, tells the story of his control. And Steve, you know what factor tells you that Abraham has been so ineffective? Carl Froch hasn't had to clinch once. Have we seen Garza break them up once?
It's been a quiet night for the Lincoln Park, Michigan resident, Frank Garza, third man of the ring.
Yeah, we talked about Abraham needing to get inside. If there hasn't been one single clinch, well, that tells you the story. He has not gotten inside.
It has just been a brilliant fight here for Carl Froch. It's amazing the hysteria that is going on around us. Rachel Cordingley, the girlfriend of Carl Froch, screaming her lungs out behind us. We've got the British announcers to our right who are screaming their lungs out as well. And we've got the Spanish broadcast going on to our immediate right. We've got the Germans in front of us. We've got the Finns to our right in front of us. It really is an unbelievable, electrifying scene.
In a country, Steve, that has about 24 professional fighters.
And when was the last world title fight in Finland? 1962?
62, yes.
Ali Maki lost by second round knockout to Davey Moore for the featherweight belt. Abraham trying to come on, but Froch eluding those punches. The pace picks up. Abraham's running out of time. He's becoming desperate. A sense of urgency in the German. Coming in January, Showtime has the premiere of 2 new original series, plus the return of Californication starring David Duchovny.
On January 9th.
We got Matt LeBlanc.
For the erudite, verbally dexterous headmaster, you're suggesting Joey?
Matt LeBlanc stars in Episodes. Then,
Cats!
Meet the Gallaghers. William H. Macy and Emmy Rossum star in a new series about a family that's absolutely, wildly, unapologetically shameless. It all starts January 9th, following the season premiere of Californication, only on Showtime.
We take a look at former super middleweight champ Mikkel Kessler. And action from round 10. Abraham had more moments in this round than he had in most of the previous rounds. I don't know that he did enough to win it. That right hand connecting a little bit to Froch's ear, but Carl Froch has a good chin, and it's going to take a heck of a shot from Abraham. No sign that that's going to happen.
You've got 2 rounds left, 6 minutes. If you switch off, I'm telling you now, we'll catch you and you'll hurt you. Carl, jab, jab, right hand, chin on your chest, gloves up, move the feet away. If you put out a slow shot, stay there. Jab, jab, right hand. But listen, you can't.
time for the championship rounds. Round 11 in a fight completely dominated by the Englishman in black, Carl Froch. Final fight, group stage 3 of the Super 6 World Boxing Classic and the battle for the vacant WBC Super Middleweight title. Froch's former title. He thought he was robbed of it against Mikkel Kessler, who had to drop out of the Super 6 with an eye injury. Here's Froch coming on again.
Uli Wegner trying to motivate Abraham before the start of this 11th, saying to him, come on, you're so powerful, let's go. He's not going.
Partly because of that beautiful jab. Carl Froch in total command. He's getting through the guard of Abraham, getting around the guard, just like that. Beautiful looping right hand that got around the guard. Missed with the sweeping left. But the jab is getting through the gloves.
And Steve, let's be honest, we expected a war. It has not been a war, and the reason it hasn't been is because Arthur Abraham does not have the tools to connect with his power shots.
It's been a one-sided fight for Carl Froch. They were telling him in the Abraham corner, it's your turn now. Only 2 rounds. Use your jab. You're so powerful. Come on, go on. Uli Wegner. Uh-oh, here we go. Left hand, borderline. Abraham complaining. Frank Garza gave him a little time. But that's unusual for it to happen this late in an Abraham fight.
Yeah, we saw that in the Durrell fight, didn't we?
Absolutely, in many of Abraham's fights. Minute left in round 11. Interesting thing is he does stop to complain to the ref when he thinks he's hit low, and that's when you pop him.
But because of the score in this fight, Steve, if I were Froch, I'd stay away from the body. There's no point. Don't give Abraham an excuse to turn into Marlon Brando and go down.
Good work by Froch. Yeah, you're right. Play it cautious at this particular juncture. Why lose a point? Again, to the side goes Carl Froch. Just beautifully executed fight here by Froch. It has been a stunning display by Froch, making Abraham miss again with the right.
And a stunningly flat performance by Arthur Abraham.
Very disappointing performance by the German. By way of Armenia. There's that beautiful jab, and that was a powerful jab by Froch just before the bell. As we take a look at Mr. Valuev, the former heavyweight champ, it looks like these guys won't be rematched.
Exactly.
1 round to go.
And round 11, no different than the previous rounds. You see a nice left hook by Froch. One thing about Abraham, he's consistent. Look at the high guard. If it's not working well, he's not going to change it. Valuev was supposed to fight here against Ruslan Chagayev, and the fight got canceled a day before. That would have been the most recent title fight in Finland.
It's almost as if Arthur Abraham, as they touch gloves, has just folded the tent and said, well, I'll wait for the semifinals. They're saying in Abraham's corner, finish the fight, try everything. Here we go, round 12. A world title at stake. They don't want to be saddled with consecutive losses on their record either.
Yeah, what kind of momentum is that going into the semis?
Abraham obviously needs dramatics here. He needs a knockout. He is so far behind on the scorecards. He's lost almost every round. He is so desperate. Minute gone by in round 12.
And Steve, unless something crazy happens here, the fighter who led the Super 6 after stage 1 will be in last place after stage 3.
The ups and downs of the Super 6.
Froch so relaxed in that clinch. You see him looking at his corner.
And if Abraham were able to muster a knockout, he would go to first place over Ward. And that's exactly what he needs, a knockout.
How much time was left when he knocked out Jermaine Taylor?
Yep.
Less than 10 seconds.
Let him go.
Abraham known for his late fight drama, his heroics. Can he pull one more out of the hat?
All he can hope to do at this point is let Froch jab and try to fire a right hand with everything he's got.
Less than a minute to go in round 12. But Abraham not fighting like a desperate person.
No, and it's awful late in his career to be learning counterpunching 101.
Left-right combination to the head by Froch. Froch in and out. What a gorgeous fight by Carl Froch. Total domination. Now Froch wisely ties Abraham up. 25 seconds to go. Oh, he hit him on the back of the head. Froch will back off as Abraham. I thought he'd make more of that under the circumstances.
Boy, you know, when you have neutral officials, Abraham get no love from Frank Garza with the low blow or the rabbit punch.
Here we go, final seconds of the fight. Abraham looking for the home run. Froch comes back and that's it. And there's no doubt about it. Here in the Super 6. What a performance by Carl Froch. His girlfriend Rachel Cordingley loves it. The unofficial third member of our broadcast team, Rachel Cordingley. I think she got more airtime than the two of us combined.
And after myself, she's the second best looking of the three of us.
Very good.
Well, this has to be satisfying for Froch, being that he's regaining a title he formerly held.
Carl Froch, hearing it from the crowd, particularly the fans behind us, his friends and family, gets hoisted into the air by his crew. On his way to recapturing the title belt, he thought he was robbed of. Arthur Abraham with a terrible night, and there is the lovely Rachel, Carl's girlfriend. So Carl Froch will face Glenn Johnson in the semifinals. Arthur Abraham will go against Andre Ward in the Super 6 semifinals as we wait for the scores to be tallied. So once again, it'll be Froch versus Glenn Johnson. Very interesting matchup. Yep, and Andre Ward against Arthur Abraham in the semifinals.
And everything in this tournament seems to be working out for Andre Ward. Virgil Hunter, his trainer, said Bika is the perfect style for him to prepare for Arthur Abraham. Interesting. And we get action from the final round. Arthur Abraham did fight with a little more sense of urgency. What he didn't fight more was what he didn't get was a little more success. That was a legitimate rabbit punch. Garza didn't give Abraham any break there, though, because Abraham looked like he was looking for some help.
Could you be a translator?
So Carl Froch will jump from number 4 to number 2 seed in the Super 6 standings, improving to 2-1 in the tournament after we hear the scores. Standing by to send it up to a classy Jimmy Lennon Jr. for the official word. Frank Garza between.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 12 rounds of action, we have a unanimous decision. Here are the score totals. Judge at ringside, Bert Clements scores about 119 to 109. Judges Max DeLuca and Oren Schellenberger both score about 120 to 108. All three in favor of the winner. And having regained his title, he is now the two-time WBC super middleweight champion of the world, Carl the Cobra Froch.
A glorious night in Helsinki for Carl Froch. Utterly dominating performance over Arthur Abraham, again the WBC super middleweight champ. So happy to be adorned again with that green belt of the WBC, and he bounces back from his first loss.
As we take a look at the numbers, Carl Froch not only throwing twice as many punches as Arthur Abraham, but landing twice as many. He made the jobs of Bert Clements, Oren Schellenberger, and Max DeLuca very easy, and they scored a shutout with the exception of Clements, who gave the 9th round to Arthur Abraham. That's the only round on all 3 cards that was given to Arthur Abraham.
So congratulations to Carl Froch. Terribly disheartening night for Arthur Abraham, who loses now in consecutive fashion after going 31-0 and unable to capture his 2nd division crown. And now a huge mountain to climb against Andre Ward. So it's going to be Carl Froch and Glenn Johnson in the semis. We'll have a post-fight interviews coming up from right here in Helsinki, but stay tuned for the second part of our championship doubleheader. We'll go back to Oracle Arena in Oakland, California for the WBA Super Middleweight Championship. Hometown hero Andre Ward is the unbeaten WBA Super Middleweight champ, the favorite of the Super 6, and in the middle of a run that could make him one of the truly special fighters of his generation. Tonight, he'll risk it all in a tough non-tournament title bout. Sakio Bika, a powerful contender who proved his mettle in 2007 by outlasting Jadon Codrington to win the best fight in the 4-year history of the Contender Series. Bika's fought sparingly since, but he is primed to upset Ward and turn the super middleweight division upside down. It's Andre Ward versus Sakio Bika coming up next here on Showtime. Back to the business at hand here in Helsinki as we take a look at how the scoring went for Abraham versus Froch. A masterful performance by the Englishman Carl Froch, total domination. The official judges' scorecards, Oren Schellenberger and Max DeLuca had it a shutout, 120 to 108. And only Bert Clements gave Arthur Abraham around round number 9. He had it 119 to 109. And as far as our panel of press row judges, Mika Forsström of Boxing.FI, the largest Finnish boxing website, 119-109 for Froch. Matthias Brzezinski of Die Welt, a German newspaper, 118-110 Froch. And Gareth Davis of the London Daily Telegraph had it 119-110 for Carl Froch. We're set for post-fight comments. Let's go into the ring and Steve Farhood. Steve?
Carl Froch, another close decision. Did you think you won? Just kidding. I know you were confident coming in, but did you think there was any way that you would be as dominant as you were?
Yes, definitely. There was still another couple of gears there. Not being big-headed or taking anything away from Arthur Abraham, but I sat behind the jab. I used my range, my boxing ability, and there were so many times I wanted to step in and start unloading shots and, you know, put the shots together. And I've got Rob screaming down my ear. I can hear him. He's my trainer. I do what he tells me to do. Stand off, stand back, let him come, let him come. There was a few times where, you know, the old me would have steamed in and got into a bit of a brawl with him, and that would have been dangerous and it would have been silly because Arthur Abraham's a big puncher. He's a very strong man, and he knows what he's doing. He's waiting and he's cute, but I said from the start I'm too good. Too much boxing ability, too much amateur pedigree, too much range, and, you know, for the last 3-4 months, up to and including the back injury, I was working on movement, and then when I came back after the back injury, I was back on movement, jabbing, moving. With the amateurs, I've got brilliant sparring. You know, big respect to Edwin Rodriguez because he got me ready for this, and Adam Trupish, 2 top fighters. And, you know, the sharpness was there, the range was there, the boxing skills, the ability. And I knew that if I used and you know, executed my game plan perfectly, it could be an easy night's work. I said that to a few people, and I've proved it tonight.
Carl, his inability to land anything significant was very striking. It is Arthur Abraham, given the quality of the opposition. Did he land anything that even caught your attention?
Yeah, he landed a couple of stiff jabs up close, but that was my own fault for not getting my right glove high enough. And he landed a couple of silly cuffing right hands, like cuff shots with the inside of the glove at the back of the head when I ducked down low. You know, he tried to get a little bit dirty in there. The referee did an excellent job. But no, he landed nothing with significance that gave me any sort of problem at all, or you would have seen it for yourself with all these cameras.
Well, coming off this, what I think was the best performance of your career, you're going into the semifinals of the Super 6 with a lot of confidence. You'll be fighting Glenn Johnson.
Is that right?
And, well, you jumped from, you have 4 points now, and Glenn Johnson is next. So what do you think, what is your take on Glenn Johnson? I know it's a little early to think about it, but...
When I first turned professional, I went over to Sheffield to do a little bit of training and watch Clinton Woods, and he boxed Glenkov Johnson. Right. Was that fight in England or did it happen in America?
They fought more than once.
Yeah, and I watched that fight, and you know, I watched what Glenkov Johnson did, and I watched him against Roy Jones. You know, he's old school, and he's been around the block a couple of times, but he's an old wise fox. And you've got to give him respect because he still knows what he's doing. He picks the punches nicely, and he's a great fighter. You've got to give him respect for what he's done. I mean, he put Roy Jones Jr. out cold, so he can punch as well, which makes him dangerous. I was a bit unsure about what he's going to do at super middleweight, but he proved that by beating Alan Green in style. And Alan Green's a good fighter. He deserves respect. And Johnson did a good job against him. He did a better job than what Ward did. So I won't be taking Johnson lightly at all, but he's a gentleman, as am I. I say a few things tongue-in-cheek and upset people and wind people up. People get the wrong idea of me, but, you know, I'm very professional in what I do. I don't mean to offend or upset anybody. And, you know, if Glenn Johnson's watching, I look forward to that fight, and I'll be giving him big respect going in there.
Well, Carl Froch, we don't have to say anything else. You said it all with your 12 rounds of boxing. Good luck in the semifinals.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
And Arthur Abraham, Johannes Berendt will translate for us. The first question, why was Arthur so ineffective in trying to do what he was trying to do?
Warum warst du heute so ineffektiv bei dem, was du gemacht hast?
Ich weiß nicht, hat es nicht geklappt.
I'm not sure, it didn't work today.
Was he conscious that he needed to adapt to the fight because he didn't make any changes?
War dir bewusst, dass du dich im Kampf hättest ändern müssen, weil du gar nichts geändert hast im ganzen Kampf?
Hat nicht geklappt, war heute der bessere Boxer, hat gewonnen.
Well, it didn't work. He was the better man tonight and he won.
What exactly didn't work?
Was genau hat denn heute nicht geklappt?
Alles, was ich vorhatte.
Everything that I planned to do didn't work.
Next up will be Andre Ward in the semifinals of the Super 6. His feelings about Andre Ward and fighting him.
Als nächstes boxst du im Halbfinale des Super 6 Turniers gegen Andre Ward. Was hältst du von diesem Kampf und von diesem Aufeinandertreffen?
Das wird ein sehr harter Kampf für uns beide, aber ich werde alles geben, dass ich gewinne.
It will be a very tough fight for both of us, but I will give everything to win this fight.
Arthur Abraham, good luck in the semifinals. And we're going to throw it to Al Bernstein in Oakland.
Thank you very much, Steve. Well, Carl Froch, obviously a man of many words, and Arthur Abraham, a man of few.